Well, hello, welcome to our REU workshop, Leveraging Social Media for Science Communication. We have Dr. Spears here with us who agreed to give us some of her time to talk through this workshop. So I will let her introduce herself and get started. Thank you for being here.
Awesome. Well, thank you for asking me. I'm very excited to chat with our intimate audience today. Let me see if this will share really quickly. Okay. Okay, are y'all seeing slideshow? Perfect. Okay. So, like Gabriel mentioned, today I'm going to chat with you guys about leveraging social media for science communication. And just a very quick introduction of who I am and kind of an introduction to who you're going to be spending the next 30-ish minutes with, I guess. So howdy, my name is Ali Spears, and I wear many hats, but probably the one that I'm most excited about is my role here at Texas A&M as an instructional assistant professor within the agricultural leadership education and communications department, but specifically the agricultural communications and journalism program. So I teach a variety of different courses here at A&M, mostly kind of in the realm of digital media. So this semester I taught an emerging media class, digital storytelling, and then also public relations and campaigns. So how we can better leverage telling stories in order to get to a specific outcome or a specific goal. And so in addition to that, my other kind of hat that I wear is in the social media world. So I have a podcast called Ag Chicks, and along with that podcast, I have a platform that has developed on the social media platforms. So that's just a quick little introduction of myself. And the goals for today are really to not make you feel like you need to be a viral influencer, but how can you take some tools and some lessons to help you communicate your work more clearly and confidently. So the three kind of main pieces that I wanted to focus on were audience and platform considerations, how you can potentially develop a guide for developing a why of why you might be sharing or what you might be doing. And then lastly, kind of crafting content and how you can better communicate the very important work that you are doing. So very quickly, if you guys wouldn't mind just sharing maybe some of the work that you guys are currently doing or like the area of focus. It can be in the chat or unmuted, whatever's easiest, just so I can kind of gauge a little bit of where we're at and kind of tailor some of my thoughts to hopefully better fit each of you all. And now that I just did this, I don't know if I can see your responses.
Howdy, Dr. Spears. I could share a little bit.
Perfect. Okay, yes, there you are.
So mine is pretty basic. My two platforms are LinkedIn and Facebook. I don't do a whole lot, but that's why I wanted to participate today, is to learn how to do more.
Perfect. That's extremely helpful and good platforms to be on. And I might have to have you help me because if there's a chat, I cannot see it. I don't know what happened
Oh,
to
you
my.
can't? Okay,
No.
that's odd. I can see the chat, but there is nothing on the chat right now.
Okay.
I don't know if Karen would like to share our audience.
Howdy, everybody. I don't know if everybody can see me. Okay, can y'all see me?
Yes.
Yes.
Hi, thank you so much for the opportunity. I am actually a recent graduate student, and I just graduated this past August with a master's in biomedical sciences. And then right now, like some of the things that I have used for communication are also used like Instagram and LinkedIn. But I think throughout my program, I recently found out that I was also passionate about scientific writing. So meaning like scientific poetry. So kind of like writing poems, like using my scientific knowledge and just trying to incorporate it all together. But I guess it's not something that is definite, but I think that's a way for me to express my scientific knowledge into something incredible like poetry. And I started sharing it on social media. Sometimes mostly on Instagram, but that's exactly what I just have been doing.
How cool. That's something that's so unique. And I'm sure you can create such a like niche area on the platforms for yourself because I've literally never heard of that. So what a really cool way for you to share your scientific work. I'm super excited about that. Okay, kind of going along the lines with what you guys just mentioned as far as your outlets and potentially kind of maybe even some of the scientific work that you might be sharing. One thing that's key in communicating in general, right, is understanding your audience. So really kind of honing in on who is your audience, more specifically, obviously for the point of this discussion, who is that audience on social media? And maybe if you don't have an audience yet, or you're just kind of starting out and potentially sharing on social media, who do you maybe want your audience to be on social media? And so I think those are really two very important questions to ask yourself when you are either when you're starting out or if you're already sharing, which it sounds like Karen, maybe you already are sharing on Instagram your work. And so also I think another layer to this is maybe you have an idea of who your audience is or who you want it to be, and also looking at maybe who it currently is. So to say maybe you are currently sharing on your personal social media, and maybe it's only reaching your grandma or your mom's friends or something like that, and you want to reach a different audience. So what can you do to identify those individuals, first of all, and then also look at who are they? Like, what is their level of knowledge surrounding the specific topic maybe that you're sharing about? What are their values? So what are some things that are maybe important to them? And then just kind of general audience demographics too. So, gender, location, maybe even like socio-demographics of or socioeconomics of like income and stuff. You can get as much in depth to this as you want to, but I think a very good general place to start is who is that person and what's important to them. And I think a lot of directions as far as content goes can be answered just by kind of starting to outline or figure out some of those initial questions. And if it's your grandma and you want it to be a different audience, how can you figure out who those people are and how can you reach them? Are you on the correct platforms? Are you presenting the right information in order to reach them? What does that kind of look like? So this idea of knowing your audience is the initial piece of the puzzle here, if you will, because I think it really sets you up for success as far as understanding and giving a direction to what you're sharing online. Then the next piece of this is selecting the best platform for you to use. So there's obviously a variety of different things or different social media platforms that you potentially utilize to leverage your scientific work or communicate about your scientific work. Here are some of probably the more popular ones. So Facebook is going to be one that has a combination of visuals and written form. There's lots of opportunity to really hone in on your target audience on Facebook due to their integration of groups and pages. So you can specifically target those to get to your target audience that you're wanting to reach and leverage it that way. Instagram is going to be more heavy on the visual side. So this one can take a little bit of creativity as far as translating maybe something that is in a written format in a scientific journal or something like that and creating a visual piece that can connect with it. This is going to be more short form content, more visual in terms of video, also potentially in the photography or graphic or picture element, and then having a caption that explains maybe what the visuals are saying, trying to keep it short, but also providing enough information so those who want to read more have the ability to do that. Twitter or X, that's obviously the older icon there for Twitter, so it's now X, obviously, is going to be more of word format, kind of like in a headline type of format. You can think about it in that way. News or like information that is kind of in a timely fashion can be shared more easily on X. Pinterest is one that I think a lot of people maybe don't think about using specifically for scientific communications, but can also be a really powerful tool because you have an audience that is already going there for a specific reason, or they're already searching specific things on that platform. So being able to connect with them in that way on that platform is very helpful. YouTube, so going to be more long form things, long form videos, how-tos. Podcasts are a great way to meet your audience, especially on YouTube. And then lastly on there is LinkedIn. So this is going to be more in a professional capacity, providing maybe a quick description of whatever it is, and then furthering maybe a link to the journal article or a link to find out more information. So this is really going to be more of a building a network or building an audience and maybe the area of science or area of interest that you are in building that network on an online platform. But one that is not on here is TikTok. I didn't include it just because of the regulations surrounding TikTok from an academic standpoint. However, if you are not using it in if you're not using it on campus, I guess for a better way to say it, because you can't use it on campus, TikTok is still a very powerful platform, very similar to Instagram in the format of video and short form content on that one. So I didn't include it obviously just for the regulation purposes, but don't overshadow that one because it's very powerful as well. So then the next piece of this is developing your why. And so when I do this talk in a similar fashion to undergrads or people who are just kind of starting out on social media, I always give this story about, I would go to these retreats and these things where I would try to hone in on my specific social media skills. And they would always talk about, well, you have to find your why and you have to understand why you're doing things. And I could not stand when people would say that to me. However, now on the flip side of it, it really is so important to understand why you are sharing on these social media platforms or why you're sharing about what you're passionate about in your research or your scientific approaches. And I think that when you're developing a why, specifically through this lens of communicating about science, it's really important to almost take your scientific hat off and put your people hat on. And remember that people are going to connect with a meaning, not necessarily your methods or your approach to doing things. And so some questions that I would encourage you to ask yourself are, what problem does your research solve? You have to do this, right, in your proposal pieces or your journal articles of developing this kind of idea of why you're doing the research and why the need for your study, right, the need for your research. So I would encourage you to also think through that lens when you're putting this into social media context as well, because you still have to show the relevance of what you're doing and why your work is important. So another question you could ask yourself is, who is affected if this issue is ignored, and how does this show up in real life? And so if you kind of go into getting onto this creator type of mindset with things, and you go into and approach it through these lens of these questions, I think it helps you to really understand the people side of it a little bit more and start to get into that space of creating stories and sharing important information. So on the bottom of this slide, I just have a very quick example. This was actually taken from my students this semester, and I think it does a good job of just taking off that scientific lens a little bit and putting a human element into it. So you could say, we measure carbon sequestration rates. That's, a very scientific thing to say. However, to make it a little bit more people and maybe relate to an audience that doesn't have that scientific background or knowledge, you could say healthy soil can help Texas producers manage drought, and that's what our team is focused on. So it just adds a little bit of that human element back into it. It's saying the same thing, right? It's saying that you are measuring something and doing something that's important, but it's just adding that human lens to the topic. So moving into crafting content. So again, people stop for people, they don't stop for paragraphs. So you can have this really beautifully long written caption or this long written report. And unfortunately, people are probably not going to read it, specifically on social media platforms. So being able to add in, again, that piece of human element to whatever it is that you are talking about is so important when you're sharing on social media. So maybe it's as simple as rewording things, taking it from a paragraph to a quick kind of headline type of format, or maybe it's replacing certain words so that it is more familiar or people can connect to it. So just some quick examples of this is replacing jargon with familiar words, and I'll show you an example of this in just a second, but using maybe metaphors or comparisons. A kind of example that I use with my students often is what's something that everyone can understand, right? And so a lot of times when we're talking about these complex things, not everyone has that baseline knowledge of knowing all of the layers to what it is. And I would say don't take the approach of like talking down to people. It's more of how can I reform this and rethink through this knowledge to connect to more people or to connect to your knowledge, to connect to your audience. So breaking long sentences down into maybe like chunk type formats, or even sometimes just adding a space between your paragraphs or between your sentences can help with the ease of reading. Also, like before and after examples can be really powerful as well. So showing like how your work impacted things before and after. So if you have zero livestock background, I apologize, and I hope this still makes sense. I was just trying to come up with some quick examples as I was working through this. But a very technical kind of phrase here is phenotypic evaluation provides a foundational framework for selection decisions. As someone who was on the livestock judging team and has grown up around livestock, I understand that, right? But I also have technical knowledge related to that phrase. So if you have no technical knowledge related to livestock, you might be sitting there thinking like, what the heck language just came out of her mouth? However, if I reframe that or reword that into visually looking at livestock, or we could even cut the word livestock if we feel like that might be too jargony and replace it with animals, can help in selecting the best animals for breeding. Now, that probably makes a lot more sense. There's still maybe some technical knowledge that might be needed if we're talking about the breeding aspect of this, but it just reframes that and rewords it into something that is a little bit more understandable. Again, this is going to be very dependent on your audience and the platforms probably too that you're using, but hopefully that's just a quick example of kind of showing what I'm trying to get at.
Mostly something to hold this open.
Okay, I love using
Flyer, as you say.
content in my examples of things, but one caveat to using Canva and implementing those is always plays on the direct slide transition. So sorry about that. So continuing this idea of crafting content, one thing that I found through my personal research is video is king, right? So on all of these platforms, well, all the video focused platforms, the best content currently is in a video format. You can also use swipe through graphics, which are gaining traction right now. I would say that they were really popular for a while, then kind of went away from them to take on this video aspect. And then now I would say that they're kind of gaining some traction again, specifically I'd say on the Instagram and Facebook platform. This could also be used on LinkedIn though too, I think if it was done properly. So swipe through graphics, that's going to be typically they're referred to as like a carousel where you have like a main thing and then you have to continue to swipe through the pictures or the graphics in order to get the full picture. Another thing that's super important, specifically on, again, probably Instagram, well, in all social media platforms, but specifically on Instagram as it relates to some of these examples, you have to have an attention-grabbing hook. It has to be something that stops the scroll is kind of the phrase that a lot of people use. You have 2.6 seconds to grab someone's attention on these social media platforms. So you have to be very mindful of how you're doing that in order to get them to stop. First of all, you have to grab their attention, then you have to get them to stop, and then you have to get them to fully comprehend what it is that you are trying to share with them. So these things like video, graphics that are engaging, strong visuals, they can all add to that aspect of getting people to stop and really get the message to them. Another thing that is helpful is to reframe trends that you're currently seeing on these platforms. And some of these examples, well, one of them in particular, I'm about to show you is exactly that. It's taken a trend that's currently popular on the Instagram. Well, this is from a little bit ago, but was popular on the Instagram platform. And it's respinning that and reframing that into something that is related to, in this case, beef. Some ideas that you could potentially use are these can be like hooks that you could potentially use are 3 things we learned from whatever, or 3 things we learned about. People really like lists. So if you can do like a 3, a 5, a 10, those are really good ways to get people to pay attention to what you're saying. You could also use it in why XYZ, it matters for XYZ. Again, kind of reframe that into whatever your specific topic is about, or one misconception about, again, whatever it is that you are particularly talking about or passionate about. So I'll just show you these quick examples because I think they do a good job of taking something that is kind of sciencey or potentially complicated and sharing it in a way that's engaging on, again, this is specifically the Instagram platform.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, shoot.
Liar. The fancy stuff.
Okay, let me try this.
Savannah, slow down.
Ah, shoot.
Liar. The fancy stuff. I don't need it. Savannah, slow down.
Okay, that one is the first one. She's reworking a trend talking about beef.
Liar, as you say? Well, absolutely. Why don't you work for him? Savannah, slow down.
So fairly easy from her standpoint. If she found something, she reused the audio and then she just added her own text over it. This probably took her not very long to put together. But a good example too of this doesn't have to be some massive creative like photo shoot or videography, 5-day shoot. It can be something very simple in your kitchen, in your car, wherever you can get inspiration to film something or to record something. It doesn't have to recreate the wheel. This one is a little bit different, but meat science related.
Do you know the leaner your steak is, the quicker it'll cook? Muscle is mostly water, which conducts heat better than fat does. So lean cuts just like this heat more efficiently and cook faster.
So she is using kind of quick cut imagery with her video, but is using a voiceover and describing something that maybe is a technical or in-depth piece of knowledge that most people wouldn't know, but she's providing value and education regarding that. And this one's super long, so I'll just show you a minute and then I'll kind of explain my thought process.
I don't need to have all the fancy stuff. I don't need to have something to hold this open and a camera so I don't have to go up and down this ladder. But that was yesterday when it was nice outside, cold and windy. It's not currently raining, but it was raining a couple minutes ago. I don't do this. I'm cramped up because I'm just sitting for an hour.
So she goes on to fill the rest of the truck in that example. And that one I thought was, again, just an easy way to think about showing what you are actually doing or showing what you might be doing when you are conducting research and kind of giving that behind the scenes look as something that people love to see and know. Here are some helpful tools that I wanted to share with you all. I personally use these when I'm creating content. These are things that I have kind of walked my students through in classes as well as far as utilizing them. Most of them do have a free version that you can utilize, which is great. But then you can also pay for a deeper version as well. So Canva is super helpful. You can do a million different things in Canva. There's lots of templates you can plug and play information into. CapCut is really great for video editing. You can pick a template on there and it'll literally tell you like you need 5 videos or you need 5 pictures. You select those 5 videos or pictures and then it automatically puts it in with the audio that you want to use and does the syncing and everything for you. ChatGPT or AI. I think this is one that's going to become increasingly helpful and important as this world of digital media continues to expand. And it does a pretty good job. If you are looking for help or even ideas surrounding content, you can put in a concept and say, like, simplify this, and it'll kind of come up with something. And then you can even say, like, come up with 5 different social media posts related to this, and it'll give you a baseline of information. So that's something that can be helpful. There's also a ton of different AI tools out there that can create videos for you and social media graphics. So definitely, I would say lean into that, especially if you have the information. You are the one fact checking the information that you're putting into it. I think it can be very helpful. Lightroom you can utilize for just kind of photo editing. There's presets in there, so it makes it really easy. Linktree, so if you have a lot of different links that you're trying to get people to visit, you can put all of them in one place and then directly route people that way. Scroll is that black box one on the bottom. You can have lots of different pictures overlapping, and in that app there's templates that you can utilize business, the Meta Business Suite is on here in the middle and the bottom as well. That is a great tool to use if you're using Facebook and Instagram, because it has all your analytics and information in one place. You can also pre-schedule posts through that and plan out different things in there as well. So it's just kind of a one-stop shop for all your meta things. And then also podcasts are great tools as well, from a learning standpoint, but also to get your information out, especially if you are doing this research and you are an expert in whatever it is that you are focused on. Being a guest on other people's podcasts is a really great way to get your message out and to start communicating about what it is that you are an expert in. Here is just some quick, as researchers, I thought you might enjoy seeing some research behind this. So I did my dissertation study actually on Instagram and social media and what that looked like from a content approach. And so this is actually what I found, and I had a very unique participant group, I guess, in terms of they were all individuals that shared about the beef industry on the Instagram platform. And so going through their content, I did find that the content approach that has the most engagement is something personal. So if you can add a personal element into your scientific information, that's a great way to connect with your audience. Also humor, strong visual storytelling, and then also having a educational aspect in there as well is something that people resonated with. And then also here is just kind of a tool that I developed based off of what I have found. Again, called it the BEEF model based off of what my research was in, but it obviously is an acronym. So BEEF standing for B is best practices. So maintaining authenticity, sharing personal stories and behind the scenes things of whatever it is that you're doing, being consistent, and then using humor, visuals, and other storytelling things to make complex ideas feel more relatable. E, engagement. So how can you create, again, this idea of a personalized experience or connect with them on a way that is funny or connects to a trend or something? What can you do in order to make your content engaging or elicit some type of action? The next E is education. So how can you dispel myths, provide transparency about production, or in this case, obviously it was beef production, but whatever it is that you are sharing your information about, and how can you answer questions? And then lastly, fostering community. So responding to questions, interacting with comments, and responding to DMs that you might be getting about the topics that you are talking about. Okay, I went through that last piece very quickly because I was hoping we'd have a little bit of time for questions if you all had any for me. Okay, I can see you again.
That's great. Very interesting. I love the name for the model. Definitely.
It was very applicable to my
Yeah.
my stuff, but
Yeah. I don't know if Karen or Bob have any questions.
I also enjoyed the name of the model, Brill and Dr. Spears, because my industry is in the beef background as well, and so I really enjoyed that a lot. I don't really have any questions, just comments that I just really enjoyed this presentation, and it helped me understand what I need to be doing to better engage my constituents and followers.
good. I know it's so hard when everyone's kind of in a different direction, and so hopefully it's things that you guys can take away and implement into your own situations.
Do you have any questions, Karen? This was a really, like Dr. Spear says, was a really intimate workshop. This is basically all for you guys. So
Right, I'm here for you guys.
yeah.
Yeah, so my question is to further advance the scientific work or that you're presenting on social media, what do you can you talk about more about hashtags and why they are so important?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So everyone has their own opinion on hashtags, I feel like, and there's a lot of disagreement between like what some of the literature says and then what some of like practical application or practitioners say, right, when it comes to hashtags. I would say if you are using them from a standpoint of trying to get further reach on content, which is what their kind of purpose is, right? Some people will say don't use them because they're hurting your content. Other people will say you have to have them there. I'm always someone who likes to kind of rule on the side of caution. So I include them in my content. And a lot of the content that I looked at through my research still has hashtags included in them. And that was about 6 months ago, I guess. The hard part about social media in general, whether you're looking at it through a research lens or a practical usage standpoint, is it moves so quickly. So just when you feel like you're getting a grasp on something that's happening, it's going to change. And so there's some positives and negatives to that, right? Positives and negatives of if you don't like reels, maybe they're going to change in the future and there's going to be something else. But also trying to work with the algorithms and work with the platforms to make sure that you are utilizing them in a way that's going to get your content seen. So going back to your initial question about hashtags, I would say use them if you want to. I put like my caption and then I kind of do a few spaces and I put the caption or the hashtags after that. Again, are people going to read my hashtags? Probably not. But if they can tag the system in a SEO component, then I might as well include them, right? And so my approach to doing them, this is more so in Facebook and Instagram, but if you do hashtag it, like the app recognizes that you're about to include a hashtag, right? And so if you start to type it out, it'll populate some of the different hashtags that you could potentially pull in, and it'll show you how many times that hashtag has been used. So kind of a good rule of thumb is to use a hashtag that has a massive amount of usage, a medium amount of usage, and then a minimal amount of usage. And that kind of covers your basis as far as potentially hitting the different key points where it could pop up. I hope that answered your question. Hashtags are really tricky.
Yeah, because I know when I post it on Instagram mostly, I post hashtags that are related, let's just say, to science or related to poetry, and those that are the hashtags that are commonly popular. But again, I still don't get the engagement that I need. So that's why I brought that question. And so I wanted to see like if there needs to be improvement on my use of hashtags on
Yeah,
every post that I
potentially.
decide to do.
Potentially. I would argue though that your content has more power than your hashtags. So as long as your content is something that is engaging and catching people's attention, the hashtag is more of a like just a bump in engagement. I wouldn't solely base your engagement strategy off of hashtags.
So it's based on what I post and how can I make it more appealing, correct?
Correct. Yes. And I mean, I've even seen stuff recently. This is purely like user format, like nothing research based here. I've even seen things that the algorithms and the platforms are watching your visual pieces now to see if like to draw connections for people. So let's say I am I'm talking about cattle, right? Like let's just say that's what my information is. Because I am posting a picture of a cow, like it's going to put that in people's algorithms who have shown that they are interested in cow content, right? So even utilizing visuals in that way to reach your target audience can be helpful. Now, obviously, it has to be something that's engaging. So it has to be a strong visual. So lighting and composition and those types of things come into play there. It has to be quality. It can't just be like a random thing, but it does help to put you in the right place.
Okay, that makes more sense. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
That was great, Dr. Spears. Thank you so much too. I will probably be going back and looking at this video again because, well, I handle social media for the REU ECN, and sometimes it is a little bit hard for me to get engagement and all that. So this was really helpful. And well, if there are no more questions or any final comments that you might have, a final advice for everyone.
Yeah, I would say don't get discouraged. Social media can be a beast. And as long as you are able to it's really easy to compare yourself to other people and other things that are going on in social media. But I would go back to, again, understanding your audience and understanding why you're sharing about it. And that is really helpful in kind of guiding you through all of the trials and errors that come up with social media. And if I can ever help in any way, if you want content feedback, anything like that, I'm more than happy to do that. Please do not hesitate to reach out.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Spears, for your time and for everyone who joined. And just a reminder that this session will be posted on our YouTube channel in case you want to share it with others or go back and look at it. And yep, thank you for your time. And I hope you have a great rest of your day and happy holidays to everyone.
Thank you.
Thank-
Happy holidays, everyone.